topics with a variety of amazing guests. We visit the past. We ponder our future as we exist in the here and now. At This Moment with Angela Black, Thursday evenings, Studio B on Revolution Radio.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome, one and all, to I Am Nature. This week, I have one of the other hosts on Revolution Radio. He's in the same studio I'm in, Studio B. He's also going to be my producer this week. I gave Angela the week off, or the night off, or a few hours off. She just finished doing her show on Studio A. And I'm so happy to have Ron Stevens, a fellow Canadian and recent good buddy, on with me this week. Ron, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Brian. I've never done a Wednesday show before.
No?
No, I was thinking about that. I don't believe I've ever done a Wednesday show. So it's new.
Well, you got a great voice for radio. You've got an amazing show. Maybe you should share with the listeners when your show is on and what time it is.
My show's Saturday night on Revolution Radio at from 10 till midnight, Studio B. I think, you know what I'm thinking, Brian, is they ought to change it to Studio C. Because you're a Canadian, I'm a Canadian. I know another Canadian doing a show on Studio B. So I think they should just get rid of Studio B and call it Studio C. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that.
You know, the Canuck. But yeah, I do my show. It's Canada Live, a.k.a. Rebel Rooster. We were going to change it to Rebel Rooster, but we did a show about that, and it seemed right, but we're going to leave it Canada Live for the time being. I also do another show on Sunday at noon on UCY.TV, and that show is called Game On, and that's a good show too. So I do I call it, that's my shift working. I do the show Saturday night, and then I do a show Sunday as well. So, but it's good to be talking to another Canadian, and you're a little bit south of me.
Well, at least we're in the same province.
Yeah, we're in the same province, but we're not in the same province, really. You know, you talk once you get a little bit north of the 401, it's like two different provinces. This is pure rural up here, and you guys got the corridor down there. So, you know, it was all the people down along your neck of the woods that were screaming. Well, maybe not where you live, but more Toronto area. You know, we need renewable energy. We need renewable energy. So they came up here and destroyed a whole bunch of lives, putting up the renewable energy, and been kind of devastating up here.
Yeah, and you're talking what, windmills?
Yeah, the wind turbines. They've made a mess up here, and
how many are up there in your area?
Gazillion.
Are they on the water or are they on the land?
They're still putting them up. No, they won't put them in the water. I don't see how you would put them in the Great Lakes because our Lake Huron here froze almost all the way across, and I mean, I can't see those towers putting up with that kind of ice pressure. I can't see it. But no.
I've seen them. I've seen them on water. So I'm not sure how they do it, whether it's very shallow or whatever. But I have seen them on lakes. There's quite a few around Kingston too. I don't know. I shared you his fundraising proposal on the crowdfunding site Indigo. James McCanney. He was a guest on my show. He's been on twice now because I like the guy so much. He's a rebel scientist. And he's saying basically that the wind power is the worst deal of the century. It costs a lot of money. And he said that we lose money on them, a lot of money, because they cost so much money to build. They subsidize them heavily. He figures that each one costs about $500,000 a year, every year, to the Canadian taxpayer. That's how inefficient.
Well, it is. I don't know if it's the absolute worst deal, but it's right up there. It's the UN documents. They sold them to us here as renewable energy, and we need to shut the coal plants down. But the UN documents don't mention anything about the environment. All they say is the reason for renewables is cash flow and carbon credit creation, and the reason they put them up here in Ontario. The province retains all the carbon credits, and the wind companies get preferential payouts. So when the province brings in its carbon tax and that, then they can run all their stuff and say they're carbon neutral. Or they can make a lot of money by trading the carbon credits that they own, where the poor people, you and I and everybody else listening, are going to get hammered with these carbon taxes. So it's a bad deal all the way around because we're paying for these towers, these wind turbines, which really don't produce anything, and they're bloody expensive.
We actually use power to get them started when the wind's not strong, and then once it hits 35 miles an hour, they have to stop them because it'll damage them. I mean, you think they could have designed something a bit better than that.
Well, it wasn't designed. It's a hoax to start with, right? And a lot, some con men got this thing going and sold it for what it isn't. And I mean, there's so many people up here. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous the number of people who have moved out of their homes. They can't live in them. And they use the precautionary principle all the time, saying, well, we got to put up the wind turbines and use renewable energy to save the planet. And the precautionary principle is the climate change principle, that even though they don't have any scientific evidence by using the precautionary principle, they don't need any scientific evidence. But all the problems the wind turbines are causing, there is scientific evidence, but they don't accept the precautionary principle unless it benefits them. So, no, it's really too bad because now they're coming with solar panels. They're going to lay solar panels everywhere now. Once they get all the wind turbines up, then they're coming in behind with all the solar panels, and neither one of these things will power the province. The biggest scam of it was they said, "Oh, we got to shut down the coal plants." And I don't remember if you remember this or not, Brian, but years ago, they were saying that, I think it was 1,600 people, somewhere in that neighborhood, every year die in Ontario as a direct cause from the coal plants. Well, this is data that they shove out in the media, but there's absolutely no way that you can come up with the data, What did the doctors say? The doctors said cause of death, coal plant, doesn't exist. So they just make up stuff and get people jacked up that coal plants, we need to shut them down. While they're shutting the coal plants down, they're firing up gas plants because wind and solar won't power squat. So they have to, they just kind of change it out from coal to gas.
And then they move them. Then they half build them, and then they move them, and it costs us $1 billion in taxes.
Well, you got lots of money. You're a taxpayer. But I was actually talking to, who was I? I was talking to the senior policy advisor. Was that who I was talking to for the Ministry of Energy? This is years ago. And he actually told me when we were talking about wind at the time, and Dwight Duncan was the energy minister. And I did ask him, it took me, you can't just call these guys up, right? You can't just call up the senior policy advisor for the Minister of Energy.
Oh, man, that must have took you like a year.
Well, they have a lot of gatekeepers
off to get through.
Yeah, and so I just happened to run into a warden in another district who just happened to know the policy advisor. So I got him, to work it out so that I could get in at him. And we had a really nice conversation. He agrees the whole what he told me was, he says, I went through the numbers with him about renewable energy and how ludicrous it was and that. And what I was, I'm a researcher, and I read a lot of documentation. There's a really good paper on my site, and it's called Options for Replacement of Coal, which was written by an engineer back in 2004, and he was at Carleton University in Ottawa when I called him up, and it's quite a detailed paper, and it shows unequivocally that wind and is not going to accomplish anything, and it cannot replace coal, and it didn't replace coal. It just cracked up some gas plants. So people may want to read that. And my blog is canadiantruths.wordpress.com. So if you just put in options for coal, you'll get a very detailed paper.
Say that again, Ron. You said it a bit too quick, I think, for people to write it down.
canadiantruths.wordpress.com.
Okay.
And if they just, there's a search engine there. So if they just use the search and put in options for the replacement of coal, they will get a very detailed paper. And so anyways, when I was talking to the senior policy advisor, I said, I've worked this stuff all out. And, all we want is a cost-effective, clean as you can get, reliable grid. That's all we need. And he said, exactly. And I said, well, what I see is put the scrubbers on the coal plants and build one more small nuke, and we're good to go. And the problem with the scrubbers on the coal plants, we could have kept the coal plants running with the scrubbers. The reason they didn't put the scrubbers on the coal plants was because the scrubbers won't capture CO2. But that's not if there's a harm factor to a coal plant, which is the soot and everything. Mm-hmm. The scrubbers will catch all of that.
Yeah.
And it was going to cost about $2 billion to put the scrubbers on, which compared to what we've spent now on this other nonsense it was minuscule cost. And but it wouldn't capture the CO2, so therefore that's the reason they use for not putting the scrubbers on. The government actually had they put the scrubbers on way back in 2004 when they should have, they would have actually, according to their data, saved thousands of lives, because they're saying 1,600 people a year die because of the emissions from the coal plants. And they refused to put the scrubbers on when they had the opportunity to do it. So that went on for years before they didn't get the coal plant shut down to a year or two ago.
It's really
so there was the government, if you're running with their data, they were the cause of quite a few deaths over the years. But the coal plants weren't killing people the way they said. So there was all these options. But what the one thing that the policy advisor said to me that I found absolutely amazing, because I didn't know it, was he said that the gas plants are actually more dangerous to human health than the coal plants with scrubbers. And that kind of threw me because I didn't know that. And I said, how do you figure that? And he said the gas plants are huge emitters of ground level ozone. And the particulate coming out of the gas plants is so fine, it's very hard for the human body to deal with it. So anybody that's asthmatic or has breathing problems are going to be more negatively affected by the gas plants than they would have been with the coal plants with scrubbers attached. This is all stuff that never comes out in the media. So people are waving the green flag and the renewable flag based on propaganda and ignorance, not on facts. So what the policy advisor said to me was that, when I gave him my numbers to put the scrubbers on and build one small nuke at between $10 and $12 billion, he said, that is the answer and your numbers are bang on. And I said, okay, then why are we doing what we're doing? He said, well, what you're describing is called sound engineering, and what we're witnessing is called politics. Okay, and that's exactly what's going on. But the guy had a sense of humor because I asked him, something else he said to me, because I was doing a lot of work with Canwea in that, trying to out them, the Canadian Wind Association, who's all tangled up with Suzuki and that. And I said, what's it like down there? And the guy was very candid, the policy advisor. He said, I can't, I said, you see Horning down there. So I don't want to say anything about it. I don't want to bring up anybody's name in particular. Just let me put it this way to you. As of late, there's been an awful lot of seedy-looking characters running in and out of here. This is the Ministry of Energy. And so I left it with, I said, do you ever see Dwight Duncan? And he says, I'm the senior policy advisor. I see him all the time. And I said, do me a favor. I asked him something. He said it would take a long time. And I said, why is that? He said, because you'd have to stand in line at the back of the line waiting to get to see. There's that many irritated people down there in the actual engineers and guys that actually work with energy. They're really ticked off about what was going on at the time. And so I said, well, do me a favor. Next time you see Dwight Duncan, the energy minister, just kind of sneak up behind him a little bit and give him a kind of a cuff up the back of the head. Don't hurt him, just shove his hair up like you would with an elastic band. And just tell him it's from Ron. And he said, that I can do for you. I mean, it's a mess, And it's unfortunate because it doesn't matter. This is Ontario, what I just described, but this exact same thing is going on in every jurisdiction throughout the world now. Same garbage, right?
Yeah, it's yeah. My friend James McCanny though has this wing wheel, and I think it's a lot more efficient, and I think it's going to help. I think it makes sense.
Well, don't get me wrong. I don't have anything against renewable energy.
And he doesn't want any
subsidies.
Like. He calls it replacement energy. He doesn't want any subsidies. He wants this all funded by people who want to save money on their hydro bill.
Yeah. Well, there's a big difference. Okay, you can run your house off of wind and solar. Okay, you can do that. It's a little complicated. If you have, look, we don't have gas where I am here, but where you are, you probably got gas. So you can have a gas stove and a gas fridge if you want. So you don't need a lot of electricity to run that stuff. And you can do it. A lot of people think that's going backwards because that's what people used to do in the old days. Not solar, but they use windmills to power batteries and that up in the old days on the farms and that. So it's actually a backwards technology, but it's something that's viable to look at the rate increases we've had in our electricity bills. So it is viable, but what is not viable is you cannot run a grid, okay, on renewable energy. It's impossible. Okay, it doesn't work. You
should have him on and ask him that question, because he says with the wheels that he has designed, and he's an engineer and a scientist, and like I say, he's a rebel. He says these things will work, but he says the reason they don't want to use them is because, like you say, the whole area of Green energy has just become a political football, and the big oil companies do not want this thing solved. They want to be the players, and the nuclear industry. They're all the same. They're all in the same boat.
The big oil companies are the ones that brought you the green energy. So you gotta be careful there. It's not, you see, I've seen this fight go on for years, right? I used to get interviewed a lot back in 2008, 2007, when they were bringing in the first batch of wind turbines here, and people would, reporters and that would come up to me and they go, "So you're against renewable energy?" I said, "I never said that." "Well, you're pro-coal then." "I never said that either." I said, I'm not against or for anything. The only thing I'm for is how do we build the most cost-effective, cleanest, stablest grid that we can do. That's it. And I don't care if you do it with banana peels, but you're not going to do it with wind turbines. Okay, that's not going to happen. No. I mean, I hear this all the time about, the latest, greatest electrical producer. And, I hope there's people out there like the scientists you're talking about, busting their...
He's an honest, he's a rare breed. He's an honest scientist. He goes to all these conferences all over the world. He's an expert in astronomy, in mathematics. The guy's got all the bases covered. He's really quite brilliant. And he says, I'm the only guy I ever meet who doesn't work for a government or doesn't work for a corporation. He's completely independent, you see. So he's about
as popular as a wart, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's why he's using crowdfunding. And, hopefully we talked a bit about eco-villages. There's lots of people going off the grid, individually, collectively. These are the people that are going to launch. Even the governments admit this. It's the little guy that's going to turn this planet around, if it can be turned around. It ain't going to be the big guys, the governments.
There's actually nothing wrong with the planet. That's the other problem. That's all more propaganda, right? If they tomorrow morning shut down all of the climate change, green energy, propaganda, if they shut it all down tomorrow, I mean, they just shut it off, you would find we don't really have any problems. This is all to push us to a place that we're not going to want to be at if they get us there. So, the other problem with going off grid, if you're in a town or a city, they won't let you go off grid. They keep yapping about, conservation, and somebody says, well, that's fine. I'll just go off grid. They won't let you. They'll condemn your house in the city, because what they're doing, if you go off grid, okay, you're not paying them.
Yeah.
Okay, this is all about them extracting from you, not saving the planet. So there's all kinds of instances where people have gone and tried to go off grid in a town or that, and they've just come and condemned the house. They don't want you off the grid. Then they can't pick your pocket. That would be the answer. The answer when the price gets so high, like your scientist friend there, if somebody could come up with a reasonable size cost unit that you could run 1 or 10 houses or whatever with, then the whole energy system that they've set up to pick your pocket would fall apart. Therefore, they can't allow you to do what they want. They're telling you in one hand, this is what we want you to conserve, so you say, I'm conserving. Well, no, not like that, right? We want you to use less electricity, but the idea is we charge you more and more and more for the less you use. So we still get our money, and you live like a dog. So that's how that's all set up. But, there's been all kinds of, just staying on energy for a minute, there's been all kinds, like, I don't know if you remember Ballard Power or not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they made some hydrogen buses and that. And a great deal of money got spent. And, finally Ballard, who started that, he left the company or whatever. And his next deal was that he wanted to, he didn't see where hydrogen was going to, after all that time he put into it, didn't see where hydrogen was the answer, not on the scale that they were trying to run it on. So he left the company, and he was working on a small hydrogen system that would basically run one house, and that would be brilliant, but that's 20 years ago. We still haven't seen that. So there's all kinds of good ideas, and hopefully someday somebody gets it together. Like, I looked at the magnet thing, and we used to play with electricity when we were little kids all the time, and trying to figure different ways out of doing things. And the magnet deal was always interesting because if you put the opposites poles, then it would push away, and the other way it attracts. And I see now people have been working on it for some period of time, because you get told things in school, because the perpetual motion machine is always a very interesting idea. So with the magnets, I was thinking this a long time ago, if you could set the magnets up so just before they pull completely together, that they pull in and then they push away, you could build that. And I know there's a lot of people working on it, but again, I haven't seen the successes that would make it viable. So everybody's got their fingers crossed. And maybe your scientist guy is the guy, who knows?
Well, I mean, he's going to have to get beyond, like you say, the political hurdles, because he doesn't want his energy to go on the grid unless it's a large replacement project. Like, say he wants to replace a nuclear power plant. He's going to have a couple of these huge 1,000-foot wheels running, and that'll replace a whole nuclear power plant, looking at...
Yeah, but again, if you look at the UN documents, what they say is that once we have installed the renewables, then, okay, and this is where the green people got to get their heads wrapped around this, okay? You got the greens out there, and we want renewables, screw coal, screw oil, screw nukes, right?
Yeah.
So they're pushing the renewables, and the guys that are picking your pocket on this are laughing their asses off at you folks, okay? Because their documents state that once the renewables are in place, then they're going to build large nuclear, large coal, okay? The very thing they told you they need to shut down is what they're coming back with, because that is the power plant.
Back after the break, pursuing the politics of green energy. Welcome back to I'm Nature. I'm your host, Brian Porter. I have a very interesting guest with us this week, another host at Revolution Radio. His name is Ron Stevens, and I got my mom, who has Alzheimer's, talking to me in the background. Can you hear her, Ron?
Yeah. How are you doing? How did you manage to do that? No, I got to get this fixed on my show, because I don't have any bottom of the hour break.
And you can ask for a bottom of the hour break, then.
Well, I had one, but then it disappeared, and I'll have to get it back.
Well, I mean, you're amazing. You go like nonstop on your show. You don't have that many guests on either, right? You just roll it all out. This is Ron's view of what's going on, and it's great.
I've been at this a long time, right? And I did.
Well, how long has it been, Ron? How long have you been like on radio?
Radio. I don't know, years, but I've been a researcher my whole life, and I really became aware of it in '74, and I was a reporter. In Calgary. And I went to an Earth Day, so it would have been the 4th Earth Day, with a friend. And that's where I first became aware of wind turbines and solar panels and biodigesters and hybrid cars and all this kind of stuff. And it was exactly at the same time as the oil crisis, the the Eastern Arab oil crisis, where they said we were being held hostage, and people couldn't get gas for their cars and all this kind of stuff. So on the one hand, you had this, we were being threatened and held hostage, and we had to do something to become independent, even though we got lots of resources here. So that was being played in the media, and then the other side we had the solution, which was green energy. And that was a long time ago, and so I went to this thing, and it was well presented. So on the one side, you got doom and gloom, and we can't have our cars, and you can't get gas, and we need smaller cars, and that's when the imports started coming. That opened the door for the imports because we were still building living rooms on wheels, which, by the way, were always and will always be the most comfortable cars ever built. But so that opened the door for the imports, and started crushing our auto industry way back then. And so, you got all this bad noise over here, and then we go to this lovely park, and we're listening to these people who have the solution. And so, I picked up some information there, and we listened to them, and it seemed interesting and sounded plausible. What do we know? Like 20 years old, what do I know? And all I know is we've been getting hammered with this doom and gloom, and all of a sudden here's this nice people with nice solutions. So we did. We took the stuff and we had it and went back, and me and my buddy designed a hybrid car. It wasn't that difficult. And so I may, if it wasn't for my grade 6, 7 teacher, I may be in the top tier of ecologists, or on the top of the green movement. But I had a grade 7 teacher, or 6, I don't remember which, who stated specifically, I'll never forget what she said, you never believe anything you read, see, or hear until you personally take the time to verify the information, because if you fail to do so, you open your mind to accepting all manner of propaganda and outright lies as truth. And so once that popped in my head, we have a big library in Calgary at the time, and so I went down and started going through the reference books, and that I had some names of some of the people who were involved in this green movement thing, and went there and started kind of checking through it. And that's when I realized what the actual plan was. And we are where I said we would be a long time ago, and that is that through what I discovered there was this UN thing with these treaties and different agreements that were being made without telling the people, and that someday they're basically going to pull the rug out from under us. Because they've attached us all of these treaties and agreements and that without our knowledge. And that's basically where we're at now. So even back then, they pushed pretty hard. They had the first conference on human environment in 1972. And then the first Earth Day was in 1970. And so they've been pushing, but predictive programming through media and movies and that, later in the 70s, they were starting to get some pushback on all this green movement stuff. There was still an awful lot of independent media. And then that movie came out, which was called Network. And that depicts exactly the amalgamation of the media. And so the media was bought up and concentrated into fewer and fewer hands. And at the same time, this green movement kind of backed out a little bit. It was less vocal, and they became more subtle about it. But then they went into the universities and the bureaucracies to build from the inside, and that's what they've done. So like you were mentioning, they're putting up fences along your park or trail or whatever it is where you go now, right? Where you live?
Yeah, I mean, this beautiful natural expanse of Webster's Falls, Tews Falls up in Dundas. I mean, it used to be all open when I was a kid to the public. Now they're trying to they're charging now to go there. They never used to charge. And they're fencing it off. So you can't even go down and enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's the basic plan, is that you have to protect nature, right? You know, so you're the one that ends up you become in almost like a cage, you know. If they get this the way they want it, the animals will be coming up to that side of the fence and looking at you and going, "Oh, don't feed the animals." And it'll be the animals saying that about you. They'll be roaming free, right? And you'll be stuck in your cities where you can't go into nature without a permit or a guide or something else, or paying a considerable amount of money. Because if you go out into nature, and this is the propaganda that's being fed to people, if you go into nature, you'll disturb it or hurt it, and we can't have that sort of thing, right? So it's all propaganda, and you know, you take a little child and you put that little child in school and you start feeding it propaganda. Better still, why don't we make some cartoon shows and that are full of propaganda before the child even gets to school? So we've already introduced this stuff into its head. So when it comes into the school and we start pumping it at it, it seems normal to them. So by the time the kid gets to whatever grade, they're out there going, "Oh my God, the earth is going to end. You know, we're at the tipping point." No, we're not. You know, it reminds me when I was a kid in school when they had the drills for the atomic bombs that were coming from Russia. You know, duck and cover drills.
Oh yeah, I was there too.
Okay, so you know, I didn't take to that very well either, because it didn't make any sense. If people would just stop and think through the propaganda, what's actually being said, we wouldn't be in the position we are now. You know, when our teachers say, "Oh, you know, the drill, duck and cover, get under your desk and put your hands behind your head and tuck your head down." And I would watch my fellow students do that, and I'd just kind of sit in my seat and go, "This is ludicrous." And then the teacher goes, you didn't duck and cover." Well, you know, I saw some film about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I really don't think if they drop a nuclear bomb, me getting under my desk is going to do much. So I'll just take my chances out here. So I don't know. I've always asked questions, so I'm not easily propagandized. You know, when somebody starts telling me something's too good or we're in big trouble, then that sets me off to go find out what they're talking about, right? And that's why I can't encourage people enough to do research. And, you know, if you compare how researchers had to work, you know, just take me in 74, you know, I have to go into the library and those big old thick reference books, which are already, by the time they're printed, out of date, but you can get some background information. Now, I mean, research today has become a joke. And the fact that people still don't do proper research I find that more irritating than the government or the green movement or anything else. If people would just, you know, when they read a news article and it says, "This scientist says," or "this expert says," or "this could be," or "it might happen," all this weasel words, you know, when you go down through an article and you read it carefully to understand what actually they're saying or not saying, it changes the whole structure and context of what you've just read if you read it carefully. And then you have the opportunity to find out, okay, who is this expert that they're referring to? Because they use it all the time. Well, the expert says this, so it must be okay. He would know. He's an expert, right? And people just accept this stuff without finding out who the person is that said it, where they came from, what they're attached to, and it's very simple to do that now. And you know, I'll give you an example. Fukushima, which really makes me want to throw up every time I hear it. You know, this has been going on for several years now, and all the radiation is going to hit the West Coast. They've said that I don't know how many times. Well, the same number of times they've apparently shot Bin Laden, I guess. And so, if you look at this logically, that doesn't make any sense. The nuclear leak or the radiation leak out of Fukushima is somehow not going to dissipate as it finds its way across the ocean, and it will stay in the same concentration, and it's going to land on your shore somewhere, and everybody's head's going to turn green. Well, that's ludicrous. Now, am I impressed by what's going on in Fukushima? No. But this is all, there's always propaganda from different sides. Now, I ran into, there was a guy, and I wish I remember his name, I'll have to dig it up again, but there was a guy up here at the nuclear plant talking about stuff which didn't make any sense. So I tracked him down, did a little research on it. He just happened to be on a scientific crew that went to Fukushima under the United Nations. Now, the paper I found from that showed, and this was the UN talking, everybody's screaming on the radios and everything, like online radio. You don't hear it in the mainstream, but they're screaming on online radio shows about the problem with Fukushima. But when you read these documents from the UN, it's exact opposite. That they're saying that the radiation levels around Fukushima are so low that it would be just normal ground radiation, right? And there's nothing to see here, folks. And these are the UN crew. The same UN crew is telling you that we're at the tipping point because they can tell 100 years out that if we don't all stop using hydro and water, that somehow we're going to hit +2 degrees Celsius, and the world is going to implode. They have that capacity, but on the ground at Fukushima, where they don't have to go out 100 years, it's there, it's now, they see absolutely no negative environmental problem from the Fukushima meltdown. So, the UN, I can't encourage people enough to go and read their papers and study their stuff and find out who's writing what, because that is our problem. The problem is not the environment. The problem is the United Nations. That's the problem. They control your health through the WHO. They control your food through FAO. They control your finances through the World Bank and the IMF. It's a control grid. Now, the United Nations was supposedly set up to stop wars. That's what it was sold as to the people. We had World War I and we had World War II, and the only thing that can stop it is a global solution. And so we all need to come together so that if there is an outbreak of war or strife for that the other countries can come in and help figure it out in that, because basically every country on the planet is a member of the United Nations in that. Well, okay, that was their sales pitch back then. But since the end of World War II and the forming of the United Nations, I don't think a day's been gone by that we haven't had a war somewhere. So this idea that the UN was constructed to help stop war and bring peace, that was a sales pitch, peace on Earth. Well, we've had no peace on Earth. So now we have an environmental problem. Well, if the UN wasn't capable of, with all the countries signed on, going into a small country and setting the leaders down and working this through, then their ability to fix a climate problem that may occur 100 years out is probably less than they have a less chance of doing that than than solving strife on the planet that's going on right in front of their faces. So, the United Nations is and I used to get a lot of heck for this from people. People would tell me that the United Nations has no teeth. Well, in one sense, no. In the other sense, yes. Because what they've done, the way they set this up through foreign affairs and that of every country, is that it's built on the Rockefellar scenario of creating false problems and then offering solutions to those problems. So the United Nations make suggestions, they say, and they encourage their countries that are signed on, which is basically everybody, to implement those suggestions. And that way the UN and the people that constructed it, which are the same guys that own the banks and the same guys that create the wars and the same guys jamming your children full of vaccines, they can get what they want implemented without you actually seeing them doing it, right? So, I just encourage people to research. That's it. When you're going to watch TV and you're sitting in front of the TV and you're clicking around, you go, "What's on tonight, honey?" And I don't know, I've been clicking around for half an hour now. I can't find nothing. We got 100 channels. Well, what's the best of the worst that's on right now? We'll watch that. Well, why would you watch that? Why don't you just shut the damn thing off and take a name or a scenario, whatever, and just plug it into whatever your search engine is and do some exploring. Once you get involved in that, you will find yourself watching TV less and less, because you're going to find what you're finding out is far more interesting than sitting looking at this tube. And I've seen a lot of people do it, and it's great. And a lot of people can't even watch TV anymore. Once you're away from that for a while, and then you see the talking heads and these happy faces and everything on the television set with all their makeup on and that, it's really bizarre. It really is odd if you haven't watched it for a while. It's not normal. So, shut those things off as well.
Yeah, what documents would you recommend people start reading from the UN? What were the things that the papers that really
pick something that interests you?
Agenda 21, something like that, or
I mean, Agenda 21 is pretty simple, right? I mean, it's the global to local program, right? And I mean, that's the other thing that kills me is that I mean, how hard is that to understand? Okay, we came up with a global problem. And they come up with new ones all the time, right? It was war, then it was health, and the problem's education, and the problem's food. So, if you go to the UN sites, is a good place to start and use a critical eye when you're reading this stuff or watching their videos. The Rockefellar Foundation is a fantastic place to go because you can tie the Rockefellar Foundation straight over to the UN. The UN basically uses the same fake problem reaction solution idea that the Rockefellers really came up with in the first place. And you can tie those things together. If you're reading about somebody that's big in environment or something, then just take that name and see if you can't tag him to a UN agency or whatnot, right? It's almost like you can almost make a board game out of this, pull a name and then you tell me who this guy or this gal's all attached to, take vaccines, for instance, WHO now, if I could remember her name, she was the head of Ontario Health Agency, and that's on my blog too somewhere, but this was way back at the H1N1 deal. And you knew that was, it was too obvious. It was phony. So I went looking over to the WHO and tagged in the lady that was in charge of the health agency at the time, And lo and behold, if I don't find her at Geneva at the WHO, find some documents. And they were talking about vaccines, and they were talking about how much money they were making off of these vaccines, how good a business it was. And make no mistake, the UN is just a bunch of business people. That's all it is, trying to figure out how they can take everything from you and give it to themselves, and in turn get total control over all of your wealth and resources and that. But, we're into break again.
Yeah, it's every half hour in my show, Ron. Okay, well, we'll keep it going after the break, Ron. But yeah, I do agree that the UN is up to no good most of the time. But I'm not sure I agree with you completely on your assessment of environmental issues. But we'll pick it up after the break. Okay, guys? All right. Back soon again with I'm Nature and Ron Stevens. Brian Porter, your host. See you in a bit. Welcome back to I'm Nature. Brian Porter, your host here with a special guest this week, Ron Stevens. Interesting guy. I don't think we agree on everything, but we certainly, I think we have shared issues with the UN. And but I'm going to get back to that discussion in a minute, because this is usually the time when I encourage the listeners to donate in whatever way they choose to Revolution Radio, located at freedomslips.com, because this basically is a listener-sponsored radio platform, and we really need your support. And there's a couple ways that I think are the best deals. One way is to buy yourself some seed, which is, there's nothing better than growing your own fresh fruit, folks. You know what you're getting. It's not GMO. It's not something that's going to be less than healthy for you. And then the other thing that I think is a really good deal is to go with the site where you can get recordings of the old shows, the archives, the $5 a month. That way you become a regular contributor to the station, and you get to listen to guys like Ron and me, or whoever else you love on this network, because you're too busy and you just don't have time to listen to all the great shows. So I think those are the two best ways to get things going. So Ron, are you with me?
I are.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I this is good now. This is good. So I get to shut up for this hour. As you explain your side of this, because to say that I have no use for the UN or anybody that's attached to it, we've been putting it mildly. But just before break there, No,
well, the problem is, Ron, is that everything is upside down on this planet.
Yes.
The only effective way to solve any problem is to have a strong local government. This is why I'm a very big fan of the eco-village concept of renewing this planet, because eco-villages are run by people locally. They grow their own food. They usually have a way of getting good sources of water. A lot of them use greenhouses. A lot of them produce their own power. So they're getting away from these buggers who are trying to take control of the planet. Now, you see, I guess where you and I disagree a bit is that you say they're creating problems. And I said, no, I don't think they're creating the problem, but they're coming up with solutions that make the problems worse. Because I think Fukushima is a huge issue. I don't disagree with you on that Fukushima is a huge issue.
Yeah. I'm just saying that when I was just talking about that, I'm saying, on the one side, you have the UN guys saying that there's no problem, and then you have the other problem saying that the world's dead because of Fukushima. Neither one is correct, right?
It does have long-term effects. And the problem with radiation is that it's one of the most dire environmental problems, because the waste that we leave behind is toxic for a lot of it for 250,000 years. And we don't really have a way.
Well, we don't
actually,
know
this
that,
impacts you quite severely, because there's no safe way to store this stuff.
Well, but at the same token, we don't know that, okay? We don't know that it's active for 100,000 years or 250,000 years. We have nothing to base that on. Okay, there's no evidence of it because we haven't had the timeline. So you have to be very careful with what you accept. Now, I have no doubt that it poses a danger. I would never dispute that. But one has to be careful what the propaganda is being used for at the time, and this is a problem to get away from the propaganda.
Well, let's deal with something very concrete.
But just let me go back to your eco village for a minute, because I found that absolutely astounding what you said.
Okay.
This whole thing of putting eco in front of everything, right?
Yeah.
That it's a solution to something. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what you just described as an eco village, okay? My parents and grandparents and myself would describe that as normal. Okay? We grew our own food. We manufactured what we needed for our own communities, more or less. You're just talking about a normal group of people. Okay? So one of the things about this eco thing is it puts a lot of people off. And they go overboard with it, okay, these tiny houses and that. I mean, that is straight out of the UN, okay, because according to the UN, the amount of space you need, Brian, is about 350 square feet. That would be reasonable housing for you.
Yeah. They're starting to outlaw, this is another thing you're doing, they're starting to prevent people from actually building single homes now. In some areas.
Well, if you go back to the 76 conference on human settlements, which is actually, if the listeners haven't read that, that is actually a more interesting document than Agenda 21. All these documents and all these conferences they had were all lead up to Agenda 21. So actually the 76 conference on human settlements, which was held in Vancouver, is a very telling thing about what is and what isn't sustainable. And what's not sustainable way back in 76 is private property, because private property is a form of social injustice. And the UN group and the eco groups and all of these different groups are always pushing the social justice angle. So they're just, unfortunately, I don't believe most of the people who, I mean, I'm sure, and don't get me wrong, I am sure that most people who are involved in pushing eco this and, community gardens and that, I'm sure they're just super people, okay? And they got caught up.
At least they're trying to do something.
Well, they're trying, but what they're doing is just trying to get back to what's normal. Nothing, is in your community is really normal. We don't manufacture anything in our communities. We don't grow our own food in our communities. But this is all the internationalization, which comes straight out of the United Nations, the interdependentness of everybody with everybody else. If they decide to shut the trucks down, you're out of food in 3 days. Okay, there's no food. I used to go with an old guy to meetings, and he's 90 something now. He's still driving around, but he grew up down near Sarnia and farming, and he said that each community or each county at least would have storage facilities, canneries, that kind of thing, to put food up, because they couldn't wait for food wasn't coming from the Far East or here or there, and we were more than capable of growing our own food. And they also know that you have good seasons and bad seasons, and so they would always put up a bunch of food just in case somebody had a bad year. So this is it's not new. And it's not eco anything. It's just what people do. And that was all taken away from us. So we became dependent on other entities other than ourselves.
Yeah.
And our communities fell apart. Okay. Your neighbors don't know neighbors anymore. Right. And that's unfortunate. So, I hate anything attached to eco, because it's all coming from a position that we don't really want to go near. What we want to do is go back to normal. And I'm absolutely in 100% agreement with you, is what we need is strong local government. And we don't have that. Every government in this country and most every other country is implementing Agenda 21, the UN agenda for the 21st century, which is really not the UN agenda. The UN is just a group of very greedy people who set it up. The United Nations is a tax-exempt foundation, the same as the Rockefellar Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation, any other number of foundations.
Yeah, everybody wants to work there because you don't have to pay taxes in the country that you live.
Right. It's a freaking scam, man.
It's unbelievable. Who doesn't want a job with the tax rates? Who doesn't want a job working at the UN?
Yeah. So I'm absolutely with you on that. We do need to get back to our community roots. And we don't have any community roots because every CAO and city manager in this and every other country is specifically trained to implement Agenda 21 without telling you it's being implemented. Okay, look at our new water park, look at our new trail system, look at our new bike lane, yada, yada, yada. But they're never telling people what the actual deal is. So these same people, the CAOs, they set the agendas for the councils. And, so I have no problem with a bike path. I love bikes. I have no problem with a walk path. I like walking. Okay. But the idea that's kept from people is like the development zone borders where you can't develop outside and we have to keep making higher and higher and higher density. That's detrimental to a community. We have no shortage of land here. Most countries don't have a shortage of land. I mean, people talk about China. Oh, look at all the people in China. Well, the actual density in China, they got 1.23 billion people, whatever it is. The actual density in China is less than the density in Britain. And people have a hard time wrapping their brains around that. There's lots of room in China. Same as the United States. The United States is empty. There's 310, 20 million people there. It's empty. Except for some cities around the perimeter of the country, the interior of the United Nations, or not United Nations, the United States is for all intents and purposes empty. Canada has a population less than that of California. Canada is the second largest landmass country on the planet. We've got more resources per capita than anybody, more water than anybody per capita. Yet it's all being taken away from us. So yeah, we need strong local councils, strong local government who has the backbone to stand up and say, these are our people, this is our community, and we are going to do what we feel is best for our community. So if your community wants to go off grid, that should be your community's business. If the people in your community want to grow 80-90% of their food, then they should go do it. Okay, you don't have to sneak off to an eco-village somewhere to do it. You need to stand here and do it here.
Well, it is.
But understand you're doing it for your people, not because somebody from the UN suggested it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No. I mean, I agree. I mean, it really is just a move back to common sense and the way we used to do things. And the industrial age has created all sorts of technologies that are not. Well, in agriculture, it's been just, a hellstorm of problems with the amount of pesticides, herbicides, GMO. The cancer rates are. Do you agree with the cancer statistics? Do you think they're exaggerated too? What's your opinion on the cancer rates?
Well, I don't know if they're exaggerated or not, but my dad pretty much put him down, and he was a strong guy.
My dad died of prostate.
I mean, it boils down to this, okay? Is that anything you put into your body has a reaction, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're putting poison into your system, then obviously your system's going to react, and it's going to do something strange on you. So you get back. We need to get back to real food. I was reading a report that our vegetables and that have like about 40% or maybe 50% of the nutrients that they used to have in them. Okay. So you may be eating, but you're not getting the nutrients that should be in that food.
The soil's not mineralized anymore. They've lost the minerals. They've been fertilized to death, and we're not putting in the manure. We're not taking the steps.
Exactly.
We're not basically, it's like you say, we call it organic. You call it normal.
That's it. It's normal. When I was a kid, there was an empty lot down the street. It was just a vacant lot. So we had a community garden there. And the neighbors and that would, everybody planted their stuff, and it was great. People would go hang out there. So, put it this way. I almost hate the color green anymore, right?
Well, because it reminds you of the UN.
Of what it stands for. It's a false thing. Okay? It's absolutely a false thing. Look, I'm green. What do you mean you're green? I'm a environmentalist. What the hell is that supposed to mean, right? Does that put you somewhere better than somebody else or something? I mean, if you want to grow plants, then grow plants. You want to grow carrots, grow carrots. I'm all power to you. The more carrots, the better. The more food we grow, the better. Now, how did Monsanto get into business? How did they manage to get their garbage into our food system? Well, you go back and you study it. What do they want to do? They want to depopulate the planet. So what do? You make people sick.
Well, actually,
do you think that the kings and queens and the heads of these big corporations are eating poison food? Not a chance.
Oh, no, they have their own greenhouses that protect them from
everything. Exactly. And they took ours away from us. Okay? And we need to get them back. So if you want to call that green, call it green. I just call it getting things back the way they're supposed to be. Fields were laid fallow. Everything is a cycle. Okay? So the animals eat the grass. They go to the can on the grass. It puts the nutrients back in, because you see, when the animal eats the food, it's the nutrients. Okay, and the animal takes what nutrients it requires, including you and me, although we're not animals, and expels it. Okay, and those nutrients go back into the ground, and it keeps the ground healthy, right? So we need to build up our soils again. But they call that organic now. I don't know. I don't understand why that's organic. It's just normal. It's the way farmers, except for this very short span of time, you can go back in history as far as you want to go back. And food production was always done the same way, more or less. It's just been in this little while here. Since,
last few hundred years. 150.
They told us we weren't growing food properly. Well, wait a minute. Raw milk is bad for you. Well, if raw milk was so bad for you, nobody would be here, because everybody drank raw milk. Everybody would be dead, according to your data, right? So, they took away everything good and gave you everything bad and made you happy, shoving it down your face. And now you're sick. And now you have to take pharmaceuticals to help with the problem of the stuff you put in your body, right? So,
getting back to Monsanto, I mean, they were part of the food revolution, and they were going to deal with the issue of overpopulation, and they had food production systems that were going to be much more productive. And this is how they basically sold their crap to the public. And plus, talk about subsidization. All their stuff was heavily subsidized. We're still subsidizing their research through things like the experimental farm in Ottawa. It's pretty much all GMO there.
Is that still running?
Oh, yeah.
Is it really? I'm from Renfrew originally. I remember that farm. I remember when it opened, actually.
Oh, I mean, it's going gangbusters. They've got lots of money because they're creating poisons, and this is what we want. We want everyone to get cancer. Everyone gets cancer. Oh, we need cancer cures, Ron.
It's a good business.
I mean, my cousin just about died. I'll tell you the story. My cousin just about died of cancer, and in my it's a big family I'm in, and but a lot of people think I'm a wacko because I just basically invert everything. I say, God, everything we're doing now that you consider progressive is actually the opposite. And I said, don't go to Western medicine for cancer. They're going to give you poison and try to kill you. And they say, oh, no. And there's a lot of money in it. So finally, after 2 bouts of chemo, and he almost dies, my cousin's there with him, his brother, at the hospital, and he says, I looked at the package bar and I saw what it cost for this one cancer treatment, $7,000.
Yeah. Big bucks, man.
And then, boom, the light went off. Finally, he said, Brian, you're right. This is all about ripping off the taxpayer in Canada, because a lot of this stuff's covered through public system, whereas not in the U.S., but in Canada it is. And it does nothing but kill us. Because we got to that age. He's 63. Oh, well, he's lived long enough. Let's get rid of them. And on the way out, and then they want to take everything that we're worth in terms of our money, whatever residual wealth we have, they want us to spend it on healthcare or something else. They want to drain us because the money we have isn't really our money.
Yeah, and there was an article in the Toronto Star, I don't know, a couple of years ago maybe, that and it was right in your face, right? Your parents and grandparents lived to be a ripe old age, but no one will live as long as them in the future. Well, wait a minute. Why is that? Well, because we've been kind of poisoning the shit out of here for a long, long time, excuse my language, where your parents and your grandparents, they were eating real food and drinking real milk and so on and so forth, and they lived to be. See, there's a big difference, between living a long time and living healthy in a long time. There's a huge difference. There's people that live a long time now, but they're bagged, right? I mean, they're just living on drugs, kind of thing. They don't have. It's kind of like almost a semi-animated life. My relatives, they were people that helped cut this land out to build towns and that, and at 85, 90 years old, there's still my uncle was still chopping at the age of 80. He was still hand splitting 135 cords a year, and his family's going, like, you're 80 now, we could get you a log splitter. And he looked at them kind of, why? If I get a log splitter, where am I going to get my exercise from? Right? And that's
exactly.
And they ate good food, and they got lots of air, and they moved. They weren't sitting in front of TVs all the time, right? They lived long, healthy lives, and that's what we need to get back to. If you want to call that green, so be it. We need to get back to. We need to get away from the system they've built up for us, and get back to. I like what you said. It is about the community, and I can't say that enough. The only place you can really make a difference is where you live. Where your boots are is the only place you really have the opportunity to make a difference, and that's what we need to try to do. But
you've tried to do that because you've run in elections and things of that sort, right? You've actually put your time in to run as a representative in places.
Yeah.
Locally?
I ran in the provincial election in 2007, and I ran for mayor in 2010, and
mayor where you live right now is in the town?
Well, a lot of people here still think I won the election here. There was a huge vote count problem, and I very well may have won the election, but I'm not going to be allowed to win the election because it'll upset the apple cart, and things would have to change quickly around here. No, I got a couple other people to run. I was very disappointed in it because I spent a year and a half trying to get people to run. And it was really sad. I learned a lot about Canadians, and I always knew they were docile for the most part. There's some sharp guys like you, But for the most part, people are pretty docile and they follow around, do as they're told. They don't really think too good. And so I spent, people are all up here complaining about wind turbines and they were looking for someone else to help them kind of thing. And I said, you're going to have to help yourself. And this is all ingrained in and your local council, regardless of who goes in there, if they're vetted already, are not going to change any of this stuff because they're told what to do. And they have to do what they're told, or because they're a creation of the province, and the province is in charge of what they do. So I tried to get people to run. I spent a year and a half before the 2010 election, and I'm good at math and I understand marketing and that, and I said we need to gain control of the councils. Then you can help yourself because you have control of the place. You're not looking for somebody else to do it for you. You do it yourself. So, after a year and a half of hard work and all these people complaining, I got 2 other people to run in a year and a half. And neither one of those got in either, even though they were at the top of the count going through this thing. And then they had a vote count problem with electronic voting machines going down. And when they came back up, where they were at the top, all of a sudden they were at the bottom. So if you think your elections aren't kind of manipulated, good luck with that. So, I was kind of disappointed in people, but I still recommend. I may run in the federal election. I told my wife yesterday, I said, I think I'm going to run in the federal election as an independent. And she goes, oh, not that again. I said, oh, come on, it's a hoot. People think they don't have the capacity or the knowledge to run an election. Once you've run an election, you will find out that the other people that are running are not real bright. Okay, they're taught to use sound bites. The questions are pretty much already figured out, and they have certain little sound bites that they'll spew off. But I had so much fun, just to give you an idea how bad the politics is that in 2007, at the end of the after our last all candidates meeting, the NDP candidate, who had been in the Bob Rae government, came up and asked to shake my hand, and I asked him why. And he said, do you realize, this is a true story, he said, do you realize that if you had not run, that no issue of importance would have ever been allowed to see the light of day? You had us dancing the whole way through this, because you were bringing stuff that needs to be dealt with, but we're not going to deal with it, and you put it on the table. And, so what goes on in the elections?
Well, I think we're going to go for a break here, Ron, but we'll pick it up after the break, running locally, trying to create some local political power.
Just before we go in, I got to get me this bottom of the hour break stuff, man.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I'm cooking my dinner while we're doing the show.
This is sweet. All right, I'm back in a bit.
Okay, go and chat if you can, man. All right, bye for now, guys. Back soon. I'm Nature, Brian. Welcome back to I'm Nature. I'm your host, Brian Porter. This week I've got Ron Stevens, a great researcher. I mean, this guy has depth when it comes to understanding the UN, actually the history for the last, I'd say at least 2,000 years. He's really on his game. I've listened to a few of his shows. He's on Saturdays at 10 p.m. till midnight. Really, I mean, if you want to find out how this world has been structured and basically designed to remove all say or independence and all your political power, all your rights, and everything that is basically being designed to fail, you want to listen to Ron's show because he's really on top of this stuff. I'm more into the solutions. I mean, Ron, I know the UN's corrupt. I mean, 99% of what they do is not what they say they're doing. That's why I'm a smallest beautiful kind of guy. I mean, you may say that's green or something new, but small is beautiful is what I'm all about, bud.
Well, this is the whole thing, and you can have a city. Well, there are I don't spend much time in cities anymore, but I don't like what I see. Um, but I think it was it Laurier who said that when you come to Canada, you come to Canada to be a Canadian because you can't be Canadian in something else. And that's what all this multiculturalism was about, is a breaking down of the society, not making a stronger society, but breaking it down.
Yeah.
I love different cultures, right? I think they're great. I got no problem with that. But when you bring your culture to our land and you wish to change, our rules, or you don't want to abide by our rules because your rules were something different somewhere else, tough luck, right? If I go to
but Ron, all the rules are the same now. It's all been standardized all over the world. I mean, nobody's changing anything. It's just a front, right? Don't you think that?
Yeah.
It's just a
I
false
know,
pretense, a conflict to keep us away from the real issues, which are the fact that we've been stripped of all our rights. The country is not even a country; it's a corporation. Everything's done under a corporate veil.
See, that's the sad part. That's heart-wrenching. When I was talking to the police commissioner's office the other day, and up in Aurelia, and I was trying to find out who had oversight over the police, and it turns out the police. Nobody can tell the police in this province what to do. Nobody. It's structured basically the same as the Children's Aid Society, which is legislated to be arm's length. So there's nobody really there is nobody in the province that can tell the police what to do. They can make suggestions to them. You can complain about them, but they police themselves because of the way it was set up, it's structured. Now it was funny because I talked to the Ministry of Correctional Services and Safety, of which the police are under. So when I'm talking to them, I said, "So you're the ones that have the authority over the police?" "Well, not really, but they're under your ministry." "Yes, but you can't tell them what to do." "No." Okay, so we talked for a long time, and I said, my research states that the police are actually employees of the Queen. And he went, "Well, yeah." So, these are the Queen's police. This idea that the Queen is a figurehead in this country is a joke, because no legislation can be passed through a provincial legislature or the federal level unless it's signed over by the Queen or signed off by the Queen.
Sure. She has a representative at both levels of government. Yeah.
Right. So our government is below the Queen. The Queen is the head of state. And all politicians, this is what makes me nuts about the political system here and the voting, is that you go and vote for your representative that you would like to have. The problem is that once you elect that man or woman, they cannot represent you after that, because they take an oath of loyalty to the Queen. And the old adage, the old maxim is you can't be beholden to two masters. So nobody in your so-called government, which is, like you said, a corporation. This is a Queen Crown corporation. The country is, and all the business they do in the legislature is Crown business. So all of the laws and that they pass are not for your benefit, as most people find out, is to benefit the corporation. And that's unfortunate. And we do need to change that. I mean, this place we call Canada is a beautiful, beautiful place. You travel across this country, it's beautiful, it's open, and it's rich in resources and low in population, and unfortunately, it's all a construct of a corporation. Now, I was talking to the Attorney General's office, and I encourage people to do this. You got to pick up the phone. You want to know something, you got to pick up the phone. And when you read some, I always like to verify. That's what my teacher said, don't believe any reads here. So, if I see something looks interesting, then I got to go research it, but then I need to back it up. It's like doing math the old way, right? You reverse what you did to find out if you're back where you started from, and then you got the right answer. You know it. So, I phone up the different agencies in that who would be in the know, and talking to the Attorney General's office. I said, when I go back through the history, we were constructed, Canada was constructed the very same way as the East India Company, set up identical, and then it was rebranded into this so-called good government or responsible government, whatever it's called, and but it's still the corporation. And citizen, people say, we're not with Britain anymore, we're citizens of Canada. Well, citizen is convertible with subject, meaning the same thing. We were a dominion, subjects of the dominion, and then we became citizens of Canada, which is a realm of Britain, or the crown. And realm and dominion are interchangeable, meaning they mean the same thing. So when I was talking to the Attorney General's office, I said, well, when you go through all this, nothing's changed. Our forefathers left their homelands to get away from the feudal system and landed in the feudal system. And we've never left the feudal system. And they agreed. We are still in the feudal system, yes. And, so if we could get people to wrap their minds around that, they might question why they're voting. And don't get me wrong, we need government, okay? You have to have some sort of structure. This ain't it, because the structure that we have is strictly business. It's a business structure. It's a corporate structure, and they're bleeding the people. The corporation is bleeding the people. They're taking they're taking your wealth out of your pocket. What you earn, they're taking from you. Most people in this country now, if they're out of work for 2 weeks, they're pretty much basket cases financially, and there's a reason for that. So you just have to deal with reality, and it's not something to be fearful of. It's just what it is, right? And that's all what it is. And we need to get to the young kids. The old folks, I really encourage people to go sit down with some old people. Older the better.
It's refreshing, isn't it? Ron, I don't want to rush you, but I want to get onto this topic. We were talking about it earlier, and I find it quite illuminating. It's something I'd never heard anything about. You said you're sitting in your house one day, and you heard this loud explosion, and it moved the couch you were sitting on. Can you give us a report on what's going on there? This is incredibly serious stuff, and nobody's talking about it.
Well, this is because people don't research. It's that simple. Just real quick, because we are running out of time. I got a call from a farmer I know. It's about 50 miles from me the other night, and he phoned me up about these ordinances that were being let off in here at Lake Huron. And I hadn't heard anything about it. I didn't feel anything rumble. My wife did feel the couch move here. And so George, Farmer George, was saying that was people were complaining all the way from Tobermory down past Kincardine, which is, I don't know what that would be, 70, 80-mile stretch. People complaining about windows rattling and houses shaking and stuff like that. And so I went and rooted around. And I looked it up, and I found a small story in our local paper about it back near the end of June. And it just said that they were doing some exercises, and this is have I still got that open? I'm not sure. This is out of our local paper. It says military exercises in Michigan likely cause of tremors felt from Tobermory to Kincardine. And The Michigan Air National Guard is asking for residents on the Canadian side of Lake Huron to be patient while they conduct a series of live fire exercises that may be the cause of reported tremors felt from south of Kincardine to Tobermory. But there's not really anything in the story. Dr. Lee Hickling told the Kincardine News his house shook as if a thunderclap had been directly above it. Owner of a local restaurant said his restaurant shook all afternoon. Now, which brings up the questions, what they were up to? Why were they dropping ordinances in Lake Huron? And how big are these ordinances? Because Lake Huron here is between 60 and 80 miles across on this stretch of the lake. And so they would have been out basically in the middle of the lake. So they would be 30 to 40 miles offshore. Now, that's got to be a pretty big explosion to be shaking a restaurant all day, this far away. So I looked it up. I found a name in the story, which was the, I got to hurry this up, which was the spokesperson for the National Guard. And I found a phone number, and I phoned it over in Michigan, but it was not in service any longer. So I think that was just a temporary phone service for media. Anyways, here's the real story that I dug up. And you can go to thenationalguard.com. All right, it's the MI, or from MI for Michigan, nationalguard.com. And you can look up Northern Exposure. It was the name of the thing they were doing. So basically, the story. This is what it says, and it blows me away. The Michigan National Guard infantry men and engineers from across the state tested their emergency response capabilities during a simulated nuclear detonation exercise called Northern Exposure, which brings up a whole lot of questions.
Honest to God, how did they get away with this stuff, Ron? Because explosions of that magnitude are going to do a hell of a lot of damage to anything living in the water.
Well, one would think so, yes. But, it's the same thing. They had sonar exercises down in the United States. I think it was off California. And there was lots of dead fish and that floating up. We may see some dead fish end up on the shore here yet. But there was whales and that dying. And they were doing these heavy-duty sonar exercises. And, even some of the scientists now were saying, you're gonna bugger up everything down there. If you keep doing these exercises. So, on the one hand, the government's telling you to, conserve water, conserve energy, and so on and so forth, and save the environment. Yet the same government is dropping explosives out in the middle of the lake, which makes no sense. They fly missions, and I feel bad for the people in those Mideast countries. They're getting bombed all the time. You would think, what is the purpose of dropping ordinances in the lake? You already have people all over the world dropping bombs on other people. You know how this stuff operates. So why would you be doing it in the lake? And why would you be simulating the capabilities of a simulated nuclear detonation? Now, where would you come up with that? So, and now they're running a bunch of more stuff with Allied troops. So, but it's the media, right? The media doesn't report. If the media, my local media here, who's saying that the shaking and that was likely from the Michigan Army National Guard exercise, but they didn't tell you what the exercise was about. Now, if they'd put in the paper here that it was emergency response capabilities during a simulated nuclear detonation, now that would have raised some eyebrows. So we just leave that out, right? And don't look over here. Just go ahead with what you're
Yeah, it's blatant censorship. It's absolutely unbelievable that something that dramatic would not be on. I don't know if I guess you're up there. There's not a lot of people, but there must be local radio. They wouldn't have somebody talking.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, it's the same thing in Toronto. I mean, I've talked to the Toronto Star lots of times and the Globe and Mail. In fact, I made phone calls to all major newspapers across the country a few years back, and they have no intentions of printing anything that's relevant to anybody. Justin Bieber can get a lot of playtime. Or what? Just garbage stuff, right?
Yeah. Well,
and, which brings up the question. I want people to think about this because I can't say this enough times. Do not, and I repeat, do not buy media. Okay, you figure out. You look at the size of a Toronto Star. I don't know what them things weigh now. 20 pounds. I don't know.
Get rid of your cable too. Well, I mean, you can get all your TV if you want to watch TV. It's on the airways, Ron. They have to transmit this stuff. It's free still. TV is still free if you want to put an arrow on your roof.
Exactly. But what I'm trying to say about the media, they're talking about pick up any newspaper and they're always talking about ecology and they're talking about saving the planet. Oh my God, the planet's going to die. We're killing too many trees. Well, every newspaper that's printed is completely controlled. Now you figure out over the course of a week or a month or a year, and you just take all of the newspapers that are telling you nothing of any importance. And you figure out how many trees get bulldozed to be turned into pulp to make the paper, and the amount of ink that's done into this stuff, and the lack of valuable information in it. Then, if you're buying newspapers, you can't call yourself an environmentalist. It's that simple, Well,
I'm proud to report, Ron, I don't think I bought a newspaper more than one or two in the last 10 years. I mean,
well,
I don't.
Yeah, I read them online sometimes because they've gotten so ludicrous. Some of the stories are just off the top, and they're being presented as actual news. I mean, it's ridiculous. Anyways, Brian, I got to tell you, I really enjoyed this. I mean, I'm seriously really enjoyed this. You got a good time slot, man. This 10 to midnight.
Well, you know what? I just noticed on the schedule, Ron, there's an opening across the board from 4 to 6 on Studio B, right across Monday to Friday. You should check in and maybe get a better time for your show.
See, can I just make a mention? This coming Sunday on UCY TV on my other show, I have, and the show's called Game On. I have a retired lawyer actually coming on. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be very interesting to have a lawyer on. There's a lot of people looking forward to this, and he's going to answer questions and stuff. So, he doesn't want to go near politics too much.
What type of lawyer? What was his legal profession dealing with?
He did civil and criminal.
Okay.
And so he's going to be a good guy and come on. I'm lucky. I had a last. But the other show is like noon to 2, right? So a lot of people have a hard time making 10 to midnight. So I had a Russian teacher, ex-Russian teacher on last Sunday, and who taught in Russia for 17 years and then in California. Now she's in Florida, but it was a really good show because we got to talk about the Russia before the Iron Curtain came down and the Russia after the Iron Curtain came down. And it's agreed that what happened to Russia when they capitalized it is exactly what's going on here. And Mussolini nailed it when he said fascism rightfully be called corporatism, because it's the melding of government and business. And that's exactly what Rockefeller said, that something has to take the place of government, and business seems to be the obvious entity to do it. So right now what's going on with the sell-off of our assets and they aren't our assets, they belong to the Crown. We built them, we paid for them, we built them with our blood, sweat, and tears, and but we have no claim to anything on these lands, and that's the unfortunate part. So what happened in Russia, the politicians and the business people got together and basically bled the country. Before there was no such thing as unemployed or homeless people in Russia. After the curtain came down, and I saw another video of another guy that did the same thing. He went before and after, and he said it's like night and day. There's all kinds of homeless people, sick people, medical sucks, and before, Russians were kept at a basic level, but we're going the same route because it's all part of the plan.
Yeah, I think so. The Chinese are moving in too. So anyways, Ron, great show. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate your perspective on things. I think we agree. We just use different language sometimes.
Well, we're on the same wavelength here. It is as nuanced as a language and stuff and how we look. Yeah. But we're on the same page here.
Oh, for sure, buddy.
I enjoyed that, Brian.
Okay, well, let's keep in touch. And I love your fighting spirit. I love the fact that you work so hard to try to at least clarify what's really going on this planet. And we need a lot more people like you. So, thanks for listening, everyone. And I'll see you guys next week.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Hi, this is Bo.
And this is Rocco.
And the Bo and Rocco Show is here to offer insight into legal and lawful remedies. Our goal is to remain free and help others remain free in an ever-increasing police-like state. With the help of our guests, we try to answer questions such as what went wrong and what can we do about it.
So tune into Revolution Radio at www.freedomslips.com Wednesday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to listen to the Bo and Rocco Show.
You don't need to expect us.
We're already here.
Revolution Radio. Every Tuesday evening on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, we present our goddess spiritual warrior, Kathy Bilski.
I command. I call to the architect of the universe's divine creators and ask for permission to quantum leap the world in all life forms on all planes and dimensions, seen and unseen, connected with planet Earth, to let us go beyond our known potential into the greatest unknown golden age the universes and worlds and all planets have ever experienced.
Kathy teaches the spiritual truth so that you may create a better life and be able to make positive changes for yourself and for the planet. She helps us remember that we are not powerless, but very creative spiritual beings having an Earth experience. Time to quantum leap into the age of divine enlightenment and let Kathy provide you with the tools of knowledge you need to awaken spiritually. That's the Quantum Leap Show. Let Light Unite every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio, Studio B.